I think at this point we can say that the Biden administration is in such dire straits that it is basically dead in the water. It's just nobody wants to dive in and fish it out. And um, I think that it's not necessarily a good thing to welcome because there's no clear exit strategy right now. Um, what's going on is you have a president who is asleep at the wheel, doesn't really know where to chart America's course, especially domestically. When you talk about the economy, when you talk about health and the COVID crisis, when you talk about many of the issues that progressives and liberals had campaigned on, and those are generally the core people that voted for him. I think he's disappointed a lot of them, and that's why his polling numbers are so bad and they've so eroded that we're not just seeing people who were middle of the road moderates abandoning the administration. We're seeing people who are traditional Democratic voters and even activists who are saying, this is probably enough for me. And I think that while people who have always opposed the Biden administration, we can certainly be feeling vindicated, right? Because I think this was predictable. I think this was going to happen so long as he got into the White House. I think he was elected thanks to a media that was eager to cover up any of his shortcomings and corrupt dealings. At the same time, we're stuck with him, and the repercussions of that are being felt every day. It's felt through the energy crisis right now. I actually just today I had to lock in my heating costs for the next year, and they did rise. It's felt in the energy crisis in terms of fuel. AAA has actually announced that fuel fuel prices are expected to rise again. Inflation is rising in general for all commodities, not just with um, not just with gasoline. So people who are used to having a life that's relatively mundane and there's very little that's changing, they're feeling the economic repercussions of having Biden in the White House. And then at the same time on the world stage, he is seen to be a weakling, and there are countries that are taking advantage of him. So we're seeing right now the Ukraine crisis. It's something that I don't really have an easy solution for because I don't want to see an independent country being swallowed up by a more powerful neighbor. But I don't think that it's the U.S.'s place to settle disputes in Eastern Europe. And I don't think that we can afford, as a country, given all of the terrible crises we have at home, to spend so much resources in order to fight a war abroad against a country that I think we spent the entire Cold War trying to navigate, um, avoiding war with, right? So it's a major crisis, and I don't think that the Biden administration, I don't think anybody thinks that the Biden administration really has the chops to deal with it. This is an opinion piece. I'm going to pull it up. So it says Biden's administration is in shambles. It's not entirely his fault. This is from The Guardian, of course. And they will be among those that claim that it's really sabotage and the obstruction of Republicans and some of the moderate Democrats that have sunk Biden. So let's read into it a little bit. A year into his term, the Biden administration is in shambles. Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema's support for the legislative filibuster has killed the Democratic voting rights effort. Biden's Build Back Better plan, a massive reconciliation package containing initiatives on issues from the climate crisis to healthcare to childcare, is, for now, dead in the water. Manchin and Sinema will determine whether any of its provisions survive in attenuated form. Immigration reform. and healthcare reform, both central to the Democratic intra-party debates during the 2020 primaries, have fallen entirely off the radar. The U.S. Supreme Court may overturn Roe v. Wade in the coming months. The latest wave of the coronavirus pandemic is still ravaging the country thanks not only to COVID denialists and vaccine skeptics on the right, but an administration that has struggled to keep its promises on easy access to tests. Abroad, Biden's courageous withdrawal from Afghanistan, a kept promise even the president's harshest critics on the left were willing to give him credit for, has been marred by economic sanctions that have left 23 million Afghans without enough to eat. And the media is already itching to blame Biden for a Russian invasion of Ukraine. So a lot of this is the writer. Let me see if there's any background on the writer. Um, so it just says that he or she is a Guardian columnist in the United States, but um, it's it's clearly one of these situations where the writer they can list all of the things that are going wrong, and then the bottom line for each one of them is that the person who should be held responsible for it, it wasn't his fault, and it's one of these standard defenses, and I think that in some cases I would use this defense for issues where I think that Donald Trump was overly criticized, right? For example, there were issues that were happening with regards to the U.S. Justice Department when he was president, where they were investigating people who were, for example, conservative activists. And my go-to um, explanation is that yes, the president does get oversight over the Justice Department. He can make appointments to the Justice Department, so it's beyond oversight. It's actual, he has authority over the Justice Department, but the day-to-day work of the Justice Department is not up to the president. So these are excuses that had been made for Trump, and in some cases I think they're justified, but in other cases there weren't. I think that Trump's endorsement of the hasty rollout of the vaccines, which I think you can't compromise on safety when it comes to medication. And that definitely was done under President Trump, certainly done also under President Biden. So I think they're both to blame for it. Um, you can't allow presidents to get away with failures on core issues where they said that they're going to do something and they don't come through with it. Biden giving him this props for having a courageous withdrawal from Afghanistan, it's totally erroneous because the timetable was already laid before him when he came into office from Donald Trump, and he messed with it and he made the timetable. He stretched it out basically, and he gave it 4 more months, and that gave time for the sorry about this. Uh, so I guess I'll have to schedule this for Thursday. Um, in any case, so the issue that I'm bringing up here is that this is a president who had something that was handed to him, the withdrawal from Afghanistan, by the previous president. He messed with it. He made it much worse. He turned it into a real crisis, a blood-drenched, um, you know, undignified flight from Afghanistan under duress after the Taliban had completely destroyed the pro-American government there, and they want to call it a courageous withdrawal. There was nothing courageous about it. It was all mismanaged and disgraceful. And yet this columnist will rewrite history and whitewash it in order to serve a political agenda. And there's no point in serving that political agenda because, as this columnist actually illustrates, the entire progressive agenda that Biden ran under, if you do support it, is something that he's betrayed. So why even pretend that there's something left to defend here? This is one of the real issues that I have with public opinion polling. I do think that there are large segments of the American population that will support a political candidate, even if he has completely stabbed them in the back and thrown them in the river and and slept in their bed and made off with their cattle and everything. That's the way I feel about President Biden, and sometimes I feel that way about other presidents like Donald Trump, but also like Barack Obama, that there are people who are so blindly loyal to these people, to these public figures, that they can't really admit that the person that they're supporting is, he has traded them away. He's betrayed them. This is something that Biden has done to almost everyone. Almost every camp he's betrayed in some way. So they focus on economic sanctions on Afghanistan, which I agree they've caused a lot of hardship. When the real issue is that his withdrawal from Afghanistan was an absolute mess, and many people who could have um, been better served with an orderly withdrawal that was undertaken much earlier, and with better planning and execution, there would have been less bloodshed. There would have been less, um, endangerment of sensitive individuals, and many people are now dead because of the actions and course of events that President Biden set into motion. You cannot absolve people who are responsible for a problem of that responsibility. This is a problem that the Republicans did with President Bush for many years. I personally was not very involved in politics at the time, so I'm going to plead innocent on that. I didn't vote for President Bush. I never would vote for him. I think he's a disgrace, and I think that the Democrats are behaving with Biden the way that the Republicans did with President Bush. And President Bush, I think, at this point is not as bad of a president as Biden is. Um, so then this person goes into also the legislative filibuster. So the people who remain loyal to President Biden, their position on the legislative filibuster is once again one that is based solely on the identity and tendency of the person in power. Because if it were to be a president like Donald Trump, or for that matter, Bush, or whoever who was demanding that the filibuster be eliminated, and this has happened already. So it's not. I'm not saying a hypothetical. If this were a president who was a conservative or some other um, non-democrat variety, maybe even a business Democrat, saying eliminate the filibuster and empower Congress to pass legislation with with a simple majority. Many Democrats, especially progressives, would look upon this as something that is putting Congress and the nation as a whole in the hands of lobbyists, right? Because if you have 50 plus one, let's say you have a 50 vote split, as we do now, there's 50 Republicans, there's 48 Democrats, and there's two independents that caucus with the Democrats, and the Democrats end up having um, you know, 50 votes for an issue, and the Republicans have 50 votes against an issue, as has happened with the Build Back Better plan and um, these two voting pieces of legislation, the John Lewis Act and I think it's called the For the People Act. The Democrats would have the ability to break the tie with the vice president voting in the Senate, and they would love that. But let's say that you had a president like Trump who came into office, there's still the 50 seat split, right? 50-50 split. And they'd say, well, all the Republicans need to um, adopt a resolution to change the rules of the Senate and eliminate the filibuster so that I can build that big, beautiful wall. If that situation were to happen, the Democrats would be absolutely livid. They were livid. There were proposals on his behalf, wrong proposals. These are things that Trump was definitely wrong about. To use the elimination of the nuking the Senate filibuster in order to build a wall. Well, I recognize that it is important to build a wall on the southern border, to keep the southern border under control. Um, I think that it was better at the end of the day to find a workaround that does not involve changing the rules of the Senate in order to do it, and they did. They used discretionary funding to the Defense Department in order to build the wall in certain portions of the southern border. Um, the Democrats are incapable of thinking of that way. They are much more interested in changing the system forever, which is exactly what those voting rights bills would do, and infringing on the rights of states such as Tennessee and Arkansas to determine their own voting standards, and then especially Georgia, which already did it, and say, well, we need people to use voter ID. We need people to register ahead of time. We don't want drop boxes located all over the place with God knows who transferring the contents to the polling place. Those are core issues. And what progressives and liberals don't understand is that when you take the filibuster and you nuke it and you empower Congress to basically pass major legislation with a simple majority, um, it becomes what is known as the tyranny of the majority. It's not quite the purest form of tyranny, since we have two different chambers, and technically there could be a situation where the House votes in favor of a position and the Senate doesn't. But I would say that the Biden presidency is continually one where you have a president who thinks that he has a full mandate from all Americans to do as he pleased because he was awarded the presidential election in 2020. Again, there's something to be said about that, which I can't say here. Uh, but he's continually pushed his luck. He's pushed his luck with executive orders, such as for the eviction moratorium, the vaccine mandates. I believe he even gave an executive order to give farm aid to black farmers only, which was overturned. All of these overreaches, these areas where he's taken his authority and gone well above the prescribed powers that the Constitution has given to him, they show this is a person who doesn't really care about doing things right and correct and in the most uh, clean and upstanding manner. He is a corrupt, venal, power hungry slob. That's who he is. This is the guy who today got into trouble for calling Peter Ducey a stupid son of a bitch, right? Peter Ducey, the Fox News reporter. Now, I thought it was funny. I don't mind that Joe Biden uses harsh words. Certainly, but Peter Ducey was interviewed later on Hannity. He wasn't angry. He said it was a little bit something that you can tell other people. Hey, the president called me stupid son of a bitch. I think he took it in good humor. I saw a clip from an interview between him and Sean Hannity. But the fact is that you have a president who cannot take criticism. He can't take responsibility, and he can't chart a way forward on anything. And you expect him to actually do something in order to alleviate the situation in Ukraine. Some people do. Some people think that he's going to solve the situation there. If he wasn't able to solve it, and him and Obama were not able to solve it when Obama was in the White House with regards to Ukraine, Crimea, and Russia, why would they be able to do it now? It's become a situation where Americans, I believe, are going to see that their quality of life, they already have seen it to some degree, but I think it's going to be much more obvious. Their quality of life, their pride in their country, their ability to say that the future, the day after tomorrow, is going to be better than today. I think that that's all slipping away from them. And I am kind of afraid of the world that we're about to see develop. So, without further ado, that's about it. One second. Wrong image. Please like, share, and subscribe on all of these platforms: Odyssey, Rumble, BitChute, YouTube, Podbean, Gab, Minds.com, Substack, and Telegram. And I believe I also have Getter in there. Okay? So, subscribe to me on all those platforms, and I'd be glad to read your comments and hear from you. Have a great day.